Thank you. So if we follow David's Glastonbury analogy, the people I'm left with are not the ones who are stumbling away to their tents. They're going to stick it out till the very end. So that's great. Thank you for sticking with us. I wanted us to just be joined by representatives from our three constituencies. We started the forum with business, civil society and Sudeep, migrant worker himself, and we wanted to finish there. Unfortunately, Rachel can't be with us this afternoon, so Louise has kindly stepped in and is going to represent all businesses in the world, and I think that she's more than capable of doing that. And really, the whole point of this little session was just to get some reflections from those three really important stakeholder constituencies about what they've heard over the last 2 days, what they felt was missing, and what they would like to see going forward. So. Louise, you represent an organisation that in turn represents, I think it was 50-odd businesses, and you're very experienced around this agenda, we know, and how business will view some of the things that we've looked at. So what are your key reflections from what you've heard at the forum?
Lovely, thank you, Neill. And yeah, my picture's not up there, so I have definitely been asked to stand in, but luckily I have lots of friends in the room who I won't point and credit to, but who've helped me with my closing remarks in the last half an hour, which is great. I'm going to start where David ended, which we hadn't planned, but was rather lovely. So Rachel asked the question at the beginning in the opening remarks about why are we not making more progress. My real reflection over the last 2 days is, which I think was similar to what David's saying, there's so much going on in different areas, and those that know me, like I think there's so much going on to be really proud of. Those that know me know that I like to bring it all together and get people to share more, and I like us all to think about what have we learned and how can we take like an action forward. But I really think that is what it's all about. It's about us, taking what we've learned and heard over the last 2 days and doing more with it. So would encourage everyone to do that. I think though, sort of some more kind of specific points I wanted to make. I think reflecting that, we need to start in our reflections where we started 2 days ago with what Sumitha gave us in terms of the migrant worker perspective. So we have to think about this is more than recruitment fees. This is about the full worker journey. This is about other forced labour indicators, whether that's about accommodation, withheld wages, treatment, etc. And the other thing that's come out really loudly for me is we need to really prioritise vulnerable migrant workers. So whether that's those that are heavily in debt or, considering the gender element, the women workers. I think then for the business stakeholders in the room and online, a real reflection that we need to look internally and think about for retailers and brands, how do we factor in the true cost of recruitment? I think James said in one of the panels, it's all about the money when we're talking about recruitment fees. It's definitely all about the money. It's also all about the resources, but I think we need to have some more honest conversations about that. And further to that, we've had some really excellent examples from Equinor and from others about how do you upskill people outside of, the constituents in the room around responsible recruitment? How do you embed EPP from the beginning of the supplier relationship? How do you drive better practice with procurement teams and more engagement from the start of supplier relationships? I think we've done a lot of reflecting on the changes that the new legislation will drive. I think that's going to drive us all more towards the UNGPs, which is where we should be, away from just using social audits as a tool, and that's positive, even if social audits do have a role. Another reflection about stakeholders is I think we've heard over the last 2 days so many amazing examples from suppliers, from labour providers, a real willingness to be open, the panel you've just heard from, a real willingness to be open about the challenges and to share good practice. And we need more of that. We need those kind of constituents to be encouraged by market demand, to be encouraged by capacity building and investment, and we need rewards for those people who are engaged, people who are willing and organisations that are willing to go above and beyond the legal requirements. We need to see them being rewarded with more business, and that's the kind of basics. Again, for the brands and retailers, for our constituents, my constituents, I think we need to double back on the common messages, on the convergence piece, not making this super complicated, trying to drive common messages to suppliers. And I think there's an element that's running through about antitrust and how we use that and break that down and really try and understand within the confines of antitrust, how do we drive more collaboration. And the final reflection, and I've said this to several people, I've barely drunk water over the last 2 days or coffee. I keep thinking I'm so thirsty, and that's not a criticism of the Clifford Chance catering, which has been amazing, but there's just been so many people to talk to, and you kind of don't want to lose that moment. You know, you don't have enough time to go to the toilet or drink because you don't want to miss that opportunity to talk to people. And I think that's a real reflection of the value of these events. So thank you to IHRB for letting us be part of it.
Thanks, Louise. That's great. That's nice reflection. So, Sumitha, we've just heard from a business point of view there, but of course it's really important that part of the stakeholder group collaborating on this is civil society. When we started 2 days ago, you were explaining to us the benefits to business of doing that. But what have you heard and what are you going to take away?
I think the interesting part about the conversations that we had in these 2 days was the reiterating the role of the companies, be it looking after the welfare of the workers, sustainable engagement with stakeholders, and also collaboration with government. And I think one of the very, very important points that came out and many of the panels actually repeated was the shared responsibility. And I think that is key, and also collaboration with stakeholders. And I think that comes to the fact that we all need to work together to find the right solution. We can't work in silos or in isolation and expect results. So, and then I think I really liked the panel on the women issue. In many conferences that we go, women issue is just in one of the topics, but it's not a standalone panel, and I hope in the future IHRB conferences, we do have such a panel, because it's such an important topic to talk about women migration. And then migrant in conflict-affected countries. I think this is the first time I'm hearing about the motivation and the reasons why migrants are actually migrating to conflict areas. We only talk about the problems that the migrants face in those kind of areas, but this is the first time. I thought that information that they shared was so important. And I also felt that this is a conversation we must continue having, because I think in future we will be seeing a lot of migrants going into conflict areas, and what can we do about that? And also about workers who are leaving conflict areas, like the Myanmar issue. I think that was also a very good conversation to have. And what was missing, or rather not what was missing, but I think conversations that we can have is on children at work and child labor. That is one. I think that's a very, very important point, especially in Asian context. I know that there's some conflict in terms of whether what kind of child labor we're talking about, or whether we should allow children at work. So that's a conversation that we should have in future. Refugee workforce, that hasn't been really coming out strong, but I think that is something that we really need to look about, because especially in countries like Malaysia, Thailand, where we have a large number of refugees, we really need to talk about refugee workforce. We are not against refugees coming into the workforce. That is a good way forward. But I think that when refugees come into the workforce, they are not given the rights as a migrant worker. They don't get the social security, they don't get the work permits and things like that. So that conversation should start, because a lot of the companies that we see in Malaysia and Thailand, they take in refugees as a CSR program, rather than a proper workforce, and that a population that needs, work rights. And then there's another conversation I thought that we could have in future was the aftermath of remediation. I think there was a passing remark about the risk of companies who do remediation and how they can cope thereafter. But I think that conversation needs to happen, and also sustaining the employer pay model. So once they go through the remediation, they adopt the model, how do they sustain it? And that needs to be discussed as well. Finally, I thought skill recognition and certification is also something that possibly is a discussion that we should have in future.
That's another fantastic list of different subjects as well. I can assure you that the women migrant workers piece is absolutely going to be a bigger part of the IHRB migrant workers program going forward, and you know that you and I have got some plans for some of the things that we can do on that. I'm going to turn to, so thank you Sumitha for that, civil society. I'm going to turn to Sudeep now. Sudeep, thank you for waiting patiently, and thank you for giving up so much of your time to sort of pay attention to some of the things that were going on here in London. But Sudeep, of the things that you've been able to listen to and the things that you've heard, what do you think are significant? And the same to you, what do you hope that people will take away from what they've learned at the forum?
I'd like to really appreciate GFFR for being one of the global platform which is dedicated to address the migrant workers and promoting the responsible recruitment. From this forum, personally, I have empowered myself, and then it really helped me to for an individual as well as an organization, Shramik Sanjal. Really grateful and impactful about the work being done. From the session that I attended in past 2 days, I really love the fact that how the forum and the panelists were able to give the deep exploration about the challenges the migrant workers are facing. I must say that many of the challenges were addressed throughout the panel. And another thing is the invaluable insight which every panelist presented that could be that can be with the best practices what they have followed about the responsible recruitment. I really like the fact that the register which was shared in the beginning of the panel. So these are the best practices what encourage others to follow the responsible recruitment practices. And then as a migrant workers, it gives us more security that the things are happening around. So it gives us more confidence. And then the challenge is what was highlighted throughout the sessions that that could be with the passport confiscation, that could be with the financial problems, that could be with the violation of the rights. Every challenge is what as a migrant worker we are facing, that was highlighting during the conversation. So that really gave me the confidence that yes, the things are going on a right track. And as earlier mentioned, the panel about the panel which was completely dedicated for the woman migrant worker, that is something that it really was a highlight of the session, because as she rightly mentioned earlier, that I have never seen any of the forum which is having the panel which is completely dedicated to the migrant worker. We as a migrant worker, being a female migrant worker, it's that already gives 3 times of more vulnerability. I mean, and then the more challenges they are facing. So that is really a good thing. So I really appreciate the fact the session on the panels were really well crafted, and the input, the output of the panels was really great. The only thing what I would love as a migrant worker to see in the future is maybe we could have a little bit of discussion about the reintegration of the migrant workers. There was the touchwood of the things, but if we could have panel discussing on that, because that is something that it will give more confidence for the that will then cover the 360-degree circle of the migration, because reintegration for the migrant worker is one of the biggest challenge. And another thing is we could be more inclusive, when drafting the policy for the migrant workers, because we have always let the migrant worker as a vulnerable community. But then if we do not empower, then if we do not include them in the decision-making process, they will never get the confidence. So to build up the confidence, to get more ground reality, so if we could include migrant workers in the decision-making process, in the policy drafting process, that will give the more human value on the policy. So I think those are my key takeaways from the forum. Yeah. And I just want to add a point saying that stopping the migration is not a solution, because migration is rather an opportunity to control the unemployment, to include the financial sustainability, because many of the families are relying on migration, but the fact is it should not cost in the expense of the human life or the human dignity. So that is something that I wanted to highlight at the end. Thank you, Neill.
That's great. Thank you. Oh, I'm getting a bit of an echo. Thank you very much, Sudeep. That's great. And as you know, we're big supporters of Shramik Sanjal, and want very much to work closer with you and see you succeed. It's always been one of our most important civil society relationships. And I think that the point you make about reintegration is really important. The DACA principles are designed as a migration cycle, and that starts with recruitment, onto employment, and then onto safe return. And I think that there's always a lot of talk about remittances and the value that migrant workers add to countries of destination, but also countries of origin through their remittances. But it can't just be financial. We need to also consider the sort of social richness that migrant workers contribute to the countries where they're working, if they're allowed to, and back home. What are these skills? What are these experiences? And how are their countries of origin tapping into those beyond a simple financial bargain that they're striking with their migrant workers? So Sudeep, thank you very much, and we're really sorry that you couldn't be here, as we've said many times. I'm going to take advantage, because I'm sitting here and I've got some things that I've been reflecting on as I listen to the things that people are talking about. And the thing that I have just started to hear a little bit, and maybe I'm a bit more tuned into it now because it's something that IHRB are starting to really appreciate is going to be very significant, and that we want to start doing some more work on, is around demographic change. We've got ageing populations in the north, all the way across Europe, all the way across North Asia, all the way across North America in particular. We've got this ageing population, people are living a lot longer, they are going to be requiring more care. The care sector is going to expand exponentially, and this isn't generally something that is going to be subject to automation unless they come up with some very, very good robots. These people are going to need to be taken care of for much longer. This will also come at a time of shrinking native workforces in many of the countries that we're talking about. I was at an event the other day that the IOM put on, and the native workforce population of Italy is going to be 50% less by the year 2050. These are really, really significant facts, and you can take that right the way across much of Northern Europe and North America and North Asia as well. So we're going to see a need for workforces, for migrant workforces, in all of these countries to take care of the old and the sick and the elderly, but also to maintain economic vitality, to provide the taxes that will pay to care for these populations. It seems to us that this is something that's not being talked about quite enough. We had labour mobility partnerships begin to talk about this at the Global Forum last year, but I think it's the area where we all need to be thinking about it. Everyone thinks it's going to be climate change that will cause the big migration flows. I think that there definitely will be migration flows due to climate change, but I think that this is something else that we need to be considering, and we also then need to set that against current attitudes around migrants and migration and migrant workers. And we are seeing elections right the way across the place, and migration is the hot topic, but it's being talked about in a way that will not be conducive to new flows of migrant workers everywhere. So I think that there's a lot of debate around this, and there's a role for business, civil society and migrant workers themselves in that. So sorry, that's my taking advantage. And so thank you very much to my panel. You don't need to, you can absolutely stay there, that's fine. But I just want to bring things to a close now. And it's the end of our 7th Global Forum for Responsible Recruitment. That's why I've got no hair. You know, it just involves a load of thank yous, as always. So thank you in particular to Louise, Sumitha and Sudeep for those reflections. And then other thank yous. Thank you to our partners from AIM Progress, so thank you again, Louise. And from Stronger Together, Jantine, there's Hannah there. I can't see Jantine, where's she? Jantine, right in the front, sorry. Thank you. It's great partnering with you. It's just really easy. We all, well, I hope we do, we all get on well, and it just makes life so much easier to be working with great partners. Thank you to Clifford Chance, who've hosted us again so graciously here in London. And, you know, we don't take that lightly. It really is appreciated. And it's been great, and you've looked after us so well. Thank you to the Walmart Foundation for their generous support for this forum and the work that we do. And thank you in particular to all the session moderators who worked with us to ensure the liveliest and most informative discussions possible. And then, of course, thank you to the speakers, some of whom travel from abroad, especially to be here, and all those online. I particularly want to go back to Sudeep, actually. I want to call out Sudeep in the Gulf, who's given up his hard-earned leave time to join the forum. This is his own time that he's given up. And we wanted so much to have you here in person, Sudeep. And it was a great disappointment to us all, and I know it was to you, that we just couldn't get the visa through for you, and it just didn't work out. But can we just give Sudeep a round of applause? Thank you to our online event management company, We and Goliath, who, working with the Clifford Chance team here, enable us to have an online experience. I've got written here, it looks easy. It didn't always look easy, actually. But when you think about what it must be like to be trying to beam people in from around the world and then beam the whole thing back out, and we've got this online audience ranging over 2,000 people watching in different parts, different sessions and things like that. And of course, all the sessions are recorded, and they'll all end up as YouTube videos now. So particular thanks to Jake and Michael from Clifford Chance and their team in the AV unit at the back. Thank you to our good friend Miss Bonnie Ling, who once again has made the task of being question master seem like the most exciting job in the world. And thank you to all the IHRB staff, many of whom found reasons to be in London this week so they could attend and be part of things. Special thanks as well to the IHRB migrant workers team. So I have Rakesh in Delhi and Guna in Singapore, who, although are not here, have been working and are an integral part of everything going on in the background. So there's all this going on behind. And finally, I have to thank the one person without whom the Global Forum simply wouldn't happen. Carmen Pedraza, come on, stand up. Carmen. You work tirelessly on this event, and you bring all the different elements together. You help us understand the technical side of things, and you produce all the graphics and social media. You help us tie everything up, and that needs to go on stage. With that delivery to over 2,000 people globally, you work so hard, and once again have helped deliver a really significant event. I'm sure you're going to go back to Paris now and sleep for a fortnight. Yeah. So this is the end of the forum. And perhaps before we go, we should also thank some other people. And this is the migrant workforce that enables us to live the lives that we do. 1 in 20 workers is a migrant worker. And as we sit here today, let us perhaps consider how they've enabled that. The roads and railways we took to get here, the clothes we're wearing, the food we had at lunch, and the computers that we take our notes on. And I'm sure the cleaning staff who will be in here tonight. And so this list goes on and on and on. In all of these ways, our lives are not just touched, but intricately bound up in the lives of migrant workers. IHRB are a human rights organisation, and sometimes it's easy for us to get caught up in conventions and legislation and company processes and funding rounds and programs and initiatives, etc., etc. All of that's really important, but as well as that, we should not forget the real people at the heart of this work, migrant workers. A former colleague told a story about he once asked a migrant worker what it was he wanted. He was told, "The way they treat me is not very dignified. I'm a grown man with a family who I work hard to support. The way they treat us is not right. I just want to be treated with dignity and respect." Now, dignity is a word that we use a lot within our programme. It's the human part of human rights, that rights are necessary for dignity to exist. When we think or use the word dignity, however, we should perhaps also think of individual agency, ambition, hopes and dreams, the quiet assertion of these things that are contained within it. That very human part of life, which, as that worker said, is about expecting to be treated with dignity and respect. That's why it's at the very heart of our foundational document, the Dhaka Principles for Migration with Dignity. And as this forum has once more affirmed, that needs to begin with responsible recruitment. So thank you all very much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.